Her fingers hovered above the plate like she was defusing a bomb. The golden, crispy object stared back at her, suspiciously still. It sizzled faintly, glistening under the sterile lights of the orbital mess hall. The scent, smoky, spicy, alien, coiled into her nostrils like a challenge. One tentative sniff made her flinch, then inhale again with fascination. Across the table, a glass of clear water waited like a neutral ally, ready for emergency deployment. Behind her, someone chuckled. A low, amused rumble that sent a strange shiver across her shoulders. Raiden Solmir leaned against the archway, arms folded, watching her with that half-grin she was beginning to recognize as dangerous. "Teresa," he drawled, "it's not going to attack you." The green-skinned alien blinked once, slowly, her silver eyes narrowing. "This thing," she said, lifting the drumstick between two slender fingers, "smells like it could start a war." "It's a buffalo wing," he said, stepping forward and sliding into the booth across from her. "It starts peace treaties. Trust me." She examined the food with a mixture of suspicion and fascination. "Buffalo? As in, Earth livestock?" Raiden smirked. "Ironically, no actual buffalo involved. It's chicken, deep-fried, drenched in sauce that makes your tongue beg for mercy." "I do not beg," she said, lifting her chin imperiously. But her eyes flicked to the wing again. Carefully, she took a bite, and everything in her face changed. Shock, intrigue, heat, a flicker of betrayal from her own taste buds. Then she coughed. Violently, Raiden reached for the water, sliding it toward her as she gasped. "Careful, sauce kicks like a mule." She downed the glass in one breath, blinking rapidly. "That was intense, but good." She coughed again, cheeks flushing a darker green, and for the first time in her recorded life, Teresa Vornix blushed. Raiden blinked. "Wait, did you just—" "No," she snapped, lifting the next wing defensively. "You did. You blushed." "Don't be ridiculous," she muttered, turning her face away. "Everin vascular networks aren't even." "You're blushing again." She gritted her teeth, then, unexpectedly, laughed. "I dislike how amused you are. I live for this. Watching a decorated field commander nearly combust from a spicy wing? Peak entertainment." She tilted her head, studying him now. "You risked much to bring me this buffalo wing. It's banned under your interspecies dining regulations." "Worth it." Her brows lifted. "You could be reprimanded." He leaned in, eyes gleaming with something unreadable. "Some things are worth breaking rules for." The mood shifted subtly. The lights didn't dim, but the air between them felt heavier, warmer. The lingering scent of spice mingled with something electric. Teresa placed the half-eaten wing back on the plate with deliberate care. "You humans," she said quietly. "You flirt like it's war." Raiden's grin faded, softening. "No, we flirt like it's survival." Silence spread between them. Not uncomfortable, more like the breath before a plunge. Her fingers, still tinged with orange sauce, curled loosely on the table. His hand hovered nearby. Then a distant alarm buzzed. Lunch period was ending. She rose smoothly. He stood mirroring her. For a moment, they just looked at one another. Two officers from opposite stars, locked in something neither could name. Then she stepped away, her voice light but eyes serious. "Next time," she said, "I bring you something from my world." He smirked. "Should I bring a fire extinguisher?" She didn't answer, only glanced over her shoulder with a glint that promised trouble. And maybe something more. The incident with the wings became the first entry in what Raiden would later call the unofficial alliance of curious hearts. It wasn't a real diplomatic agreement, but the way Teresa began seeking him out after briefings, appearing in places he happened to be, it felt like a pact, silent, unspoken, and dangerous. Everyone on Station 47 noticed. Teresa had never been known for small talk. Her presence usually froze conversations. But now, she lingered. She spoke. She smiled. Once, she even laughed during a joint mission review. The audio logs flagged it as an anomaly. Humans whispered. Aliens speculated. Rumors grew. And Raiden? He thrived in it. He'd always been the sort of man to chase what others feared. War zones, political minefields, forbidden cuisine. But Teresa wasn't a mission. She was a revelation. One evening, as artificial dusk fell across the biodome, he found her near the solarium, surrounded by blooming scythants. She stood barefoot, her boots tucked neatly beside the bench, letting the warm soil kiss her toes. "Enjoying the earth imports?" he asked, approaching slowly. She didn't look at him immediately. "I read they're symbolic." He nodded. "Scythants represent surrender, not of war but of pride, of fear." She bent slightly, touching one of the violet blooms. "Strange how fragile things can hold such power. Like you." That made her turn. "Do all Terran males seduce through flattery?" "Only the ones hopelessly outmatched." Her lips twitched, then sobered. "You shouldn't speak this way. We are watched." He sat beside her anyway. "I don't care. You should." "Teresa," he said softer now. "You know what I'm feeling. Don't pretend you don't." She looked away, to the stars glimmering beyond the dome's curve. "I do know," she whispered, "and that terrifies me." "Because it's forbidden?" "No," she said. "Because it's real." That silence returned, thicker now. He didn't reach for her, didn't press. He just sat with it, with her. Minutes passed like hours. Then she said very quietly, "I have never felt seen before." He turned toward her, heart racing. "Not truly," she added. "To most I am status, power, a weapon. But with you—" She paused, then laughed, dry and startled. "You make me choke on chicken." He smiled. "Is that your way of saying you like me?" She shook her head slowly. "No, it's my way of saying I might fall." That was when he reached for her hand. Just once, just briefly, and she didn't pull away. A week later, the incident occurred. A diplomatic dinner. A table filled with dignitaries and delegates, all watching her. Raiden sat diagonally across from her, speaking to a representative from the Sorelli clade. She wasn't meant to be looking at him, but she couldn't stop. When he caught her gaze, he winked. Subtle, quick, and in her mind, everything shattered. The weight of it hit her then, what she wanted, what they were becoming, what it would mean if she let this go further. Her father would exile her. The Everin hierarchy would collapse in scandal. She'd lose access to her blood rights, her command. And none of it scared her as much as the thought of never tasting that reckless, foolish warmth again. Her throat closed. She nearly dropped her goblet. The ambassador next to her asked if she needed water. She waved him off. She blushed again, deeper, darker, and for the first time she knew she could no longer pretend. The human across the table wasn't a danger to her. He was her gravity. The door to her quarters hissed shut behind her, sealing away the eyes of the galaxy. Teresa leaned against it, letting her breath shudder from her lungs. The lights adjusted automatically to her biorhythms. Cool, soft hues of violet and cobalt. But nothing could dim the flame beneath her skin. She still felt his gaze on her, still tasted the risk on her tongue. She moved like someone wading through memories. Slow, deliberate, careful not to break whatever fragile thread had bound her to that moment at the diplomatic table. Each step toward her private terminal echoed louder than it should have. Her fingers hovered above the screen. She shouldn't send anything. Not now. Not ever. But she did. / secure message. Encrypted frequency. 2. Lieutenant Commander Raiden Solmir. The next time you wink at me during a formal gathering, I may do something regrettable. Teresa. She didn't expect a reply. Came 13 seconds later. / reply. Encrypted frequency. Make it very regrettable. RS. Her heart stuttered, then thundered. She turned off the screen. And for the first time since her commission, Teresa Vornix didn't sleep that night. 2 days passed. Neither of them spoke directly. Orders came through channels, Reviews were held in neutral rooms. The distance felt intentional, too precise to be accidental. He was giving her space. That was the kind of man he was. And it infuriated her. On the third day, she found him in the pilot simulation bay, alone, running atmospheric reentry drills at lethal difficulty levels. He didn't hear her come in. "You're being dramatic," she said flatly. He glanced over his shoulder, breathless but smiling. "And you're early. For what?" "Your confession." She folded her arms. "You presume much." "I presume nothing," he said, locking the simulator. "I only hope." Something in her composure cracked. "You said nothing. You disappeared." "I thought I was doing the noble thing," he admitted. "You've got more to lose than I do. That's not your decision." "No," he agreed. "But your silence made me wonder." She stepped closer, her boots echoing off the steel. "Do you really think I could forget what we've built?" "I was afraid you'd try." She didn't speak. Instead, she lifted her hand and placed it over his chest, right where his heart beat. Steady, strong, human. "I've led fleets through solar sieges," she whispered. "I've watched planets fall. Nothing ever made me hesitate, until you." He swallowed hard. "Is that hesitation bad?" "No. It's the only thing that makes me feel alive." He closed the last distance between them, slowly, letting her stop him. She didn't. Their foreheads touched first. A soft collision of breath and thought. Then his mouth found hers. It wasn't a kiss that burned. It was one that answered every question, every ache, every stolen look. Her hands gripped the fabric at his sides. His fingers slid into the tendrils of silver that framed her neck. And for a moment, time died. When they pulled apart, her cheeks were flushed again, and his eyes were darker than she'd ever seen them. "I've broken a dozen regulations just now," she murmured. "So have I." She looked at him. "What happens now?" "That depends," he said, running a thumb gently along her jaw. "Are you ready to risk everything?" Her voice came like a vow. "For you? Yes." They met in secret. At first, it was a quiet rebellion. The back corridors of the observation decks, empty hangars cloaked in shadow. They left no digital trace. Teresa's rank allowed her to manipulate surveillance grids. Raiden's charm disarmed even the nosiest AI watchdogs. Each rendezvous was stolen from the machinery of duty. 20 minutes between briefings, 10 stolen under artificial moonlight, hours where whispers replaced war councils. He showed her Earth music. She played him recordings of Evern memory chants, harmonic progressions that layered over one another like woven silk. He taught her how to dance. She taught him how to breathe underwater with nothing but willpower. Their worlds collided piece by piece, and they kept finding joy in the wreckage. But it could not last. Joy never did, not unguarded. One night, after an interspecies council briefing, Raiden found his superior officer waiting in his quarters. Captain Ilrose, older, cybernetically enhanced, and deeply unimpressed. "She's watching you," he said without preamble. Raiden leaned against the door. "Who?" "Vornix's father." That stopped him cold. Ilrose continued. "She's a heir. You know what that means?" Raiden's voice was quiet. "I know exactly what it means. She's already being called back. Summoned to Everin Core." "When?" 72 hours. He straightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because she won't. She thinks protecting you means leaving quietly." Raiden's jaw tightened. "She's wrong," he said. He found her near the edge of the Starfield dome, staring up as if the heavens might answer her. "You were going to leave," he said. She didn't turn. "You knew." He stepped beside her. "Why?" "If I stay, you lose your career. I lose my legacy. If you go, I lose you." Now she looked at him. "You don't understand what they'll do. The tribunal doesn't punish with court. They erase. You'll become a footnote in an archived scandal." He took her hands. "Then let's give them something worth archiving." "You're not joking." "I've never been more serious." She studied his face. The lines of defiance. The storm in his gaze. "You want to go public?" He nodded. You want to tell the entire diplomatic arm of two empires that we kissed, that we fell. No, he said. I want to tell them we chose each other. She looked away, swallowing the scream inside her lungs. They'll call me a traitor. They'll call you brave. She turned back to him, eyes glassy but burning. If I do this, she said, I need to know you won't run. I'd rather die. No dramatics. I'm serious. Then meet me in the archive tower. Midnight. Bring nothing. Are you running? She leaned in, lips grazing his cheek. I'm choosing. Midnight came. The archive tower pulsed with silent light, housing the greatest records of interspecies cooperation and its darkest betrayals. He arrived alone. She stood beneath the glowing obelisk, her command insignia already removed from her uniform. I left everything, she said. He joined her. So did I. Then, without warning, the tower doors opened. Security flooded the room, but not with weapons, with cameras. The tribunal had been watching longer than either of them realized. And now the reckoning began. Continue with Section 3. The tribunal chamber was silent. Not the tense silence of a battlefield, nor the calculated hush of diplomacy, but something colder, ancient, judicial. Teresa stood at the center, her uniform stripped of insignias, silver eyes steady despite the avalanche of attention crushing down on her from every tiered level of the hearing dome. Ryden stood just behind her, his presence unwavering. He'd tried to speak in her defense. They'd silenced him. She wasn't surprised. The Grand Arbiter, flanked by advisors from half a dozen species, finally raised her voice. Commander Vornix, the voice rang, synthesized and cold. You stand accused of compromising interspecies trust through undisclosed relations with a member of the human delegation. Do you contest this charge? No, Teresa said clearly. I affirm it. A ripple of shock moved through the assembly. The arbiter's neural appendages twitched. You are aware this admission invalidates your diplomatic immunity and authorizes an intergovernmental review of all ever negotiations you influenced. I am. And you accept this consequence? I do. Ryden stepped forward before they could stop him. Then include me in your judgment. The arbiter's glowing eyes turned to him. You are not under our jurisdiction, Lieutenant Commander. I was complicit. You are irrelevant. I kissed her, he said louder. I touched her. I knew the risk. I invited it. There was a pause. Then a voice from the council. Gravelly, slow. Why? Everyone turned. A Charon representative, a species known for pragmatic detachment, tilted his scaled head. Why did you do it, human? Knowing the fallout. Ryden looked at them all, one by one. I watched her lead a room full of ancient creatures without blinking. I saw her command respect without demanding it. She made me believe peace wasn't just possible, it was worth bleeding for. And in the quiet between those battles, I saw something no archive could hold. A soul braver than any warship, more beautiful than any flag. He took a breath. I didn't fall in love with her. I walked into it, step by step, knowing the cost. Teresa turned to him, not caring who saw. Her fingers brushed his. A small motion, defiant. The tribunal took in the gesture. Some faces showed disdain. Others, something else. Then the arbiter spoke again. You chose affection over duty, emotion over structure. Teresa's voice cut through. No, I redefined duty. Silence. You built this alliance on survival, trade, borders. But what binds stronger than law is understanding, compassion, unity. We proved it could exist not through treaties but touch. You call it scandal. I call it precedent. Someone shifted. Another leaned forward. The air changed. The arbiter paused, her synthetic voice modulating. We will deliberate. You are to remain confined until judgment is rendered. Teresa nodded once. Understood. They were placed in adjacent quarters, separated by a thin wall and guarded by silent sentries. Night never truly fell aboard a station like this, but the artificial light dimmed, and with it came quiet. Raiden tapped gently on the wall between them. You awake. A pause. Then 3 soft knocks in return. He smiled. What are you thinking? Another pause. Then her voice, faint but firm. I'm thinking about the first time I saw you. You were furious with a translation algorithm for confusing threat with gift. He laughed quietly. In fairness, I was trying to give your envoy coffee. You nearly triggered a diplomatic incident over caffeine. It was worth it. They said it was the best mistake in human history. Teresa didn't answer right away. Then, do you regret it? No. I might be exiled. Then I'll follow you. You'll be court-martialed. I'll appeal. Silence. You're reckless, she said finally. I fell for a woman who can silence rooms with a glance and scare warlords into peace, he replied. Reckless was inevitable. She smiled, unseen. You still owe me dinner. He pressed his palm against the wall, wishing it was her skin. I'll cook. You can't cook. Exactly. A quiet laugh passed between them like a secret handshake. The verdict came the next morning. The tribunal chamber was less crowded this time. The press had been barred. Only decision-makers remained. The arbiter's voice, as always, was devoid of tone. But the words carried fire. Commander Vornix, after careful consideration, this body has decided not to pursue formal dissolution of the Earth-Everin Accord. However, your actions are deemed incompatible with your current position. You are hereby relieved of all military and diplomatic duties, effective immediately. Teresa's chin lifted. Her face betrayed nothing. As for your human counterpart, the arbiter continued, Lieutenant Commander Sommer's conduct was outside our jurisdiction, but following review, the Terran Navy has agreed to his resignation as a condition of maintaining neutrality. The words were delivered like terminal diagnoses. Raiden looked only at her. She turned to him. Neither looked away. You are both now classified as civilians, the arbiter finished. Free to remain within the border territories or return to your respective homeworlds. The choice is yours. The hangar bay was quiet. 2 ships waited. 1 Everin, 1 Terran. 1 future for each. She stood beside him, holding nothing. Her hair was loose for the first time he'd seen it. She looked younger, wilder. I can't return to Everin, she said. I don't want to go back to Earth. They faced each other. No uniforms, she said. No command. No orders. No lies. He took her hand. What now? She looked up at him, eyes gleaming like starlight. Now, she whispered. We build something new. And they stepped forward together, toward the ship neither flag claimed. Not rebels. Not fugitives. Something stronger. Chosen. The settlement was little more than scaffolding when they arrived. A wind-blasted plateau balanced between 2 border worlds, unclaimed by any empire, ignored by trade routes, untouched by treaties. It was called Velro Station, but no one used the name. People just called it the Edge. That suited Teresa and Raiden perfectly. They didn't arrive in a diplomatic vessel or a military escort. Their transport was a retrofitted cargo skimmer with cracked stabilizers and a borrowed transponder code. He piloted it. She rewired half the systems during the trip. No welcoming committee greeted them. No cameras. No judgments. Only wind and space. They found housing on the outer ring of the settlement bare bones, low-pressure habitat domes salvaged from mining operations long gone. Raiden insisted on sleeping under the stars the first night. Teresa insisted on reinforcing the shield canopy in case a solar flare had other plans. He teased her about being paranoid. She replied that paranoia was a form of love. Within weeks, they began reshaping the place. Not with politics, but with presence. They taught, traded, helped. She repaired comm towers with scavengers who barely spoke standard. He taught the children of exiles how to hold tools with confidence, how to read star maps and plant roots that might actually survive the soil. Word spread, quietly at first, then like the hush that precedes gravity. A former Everin commander and a Terran officer, living like settlers, sleeping side by side, building something no one could name. And still, there were moments, quiet, aching ones, when the world fell away and it was just the two of them. Ryden would find her out past the dome sometimes, sitting on a ridgeline, wind tugging at her hair. "I used to think my purpose was to represent an entire people," she said once. "Now I wonder if I was just supposed to find one person." He sat beside her, his hand brushing hers. "I used to think I had to protect humanity from threats," he replied. "Turns out the bravest thing I ever did was love someone who was never a threat to me at all." Her eyes softened. "You still sound like a poet when you're supposed to be an idiot." He grinned. "Lucky for me, you love both." She didn't deny it. On the anniversary of their arrival, neither marked by calendar nor ceremony, just memory, they hosted a gathering. A fire pit was built from salvaged exhaust rings. The flames were artificial but warm. Refugees, outcasts, smugglers, and reformers all sat together. No uniforms, no ranks, just stories. A child climbed into Teresa's lap during the meal, fascinated by the swirling lights that flickered in her eyes when she laughed. The girl asked if she was a star dancer. Teresa replied, "Only when someone I love is watching." From across the fire, Ryden winked. The girl shrieked in delight. Later, long after others had gone to sleep, they stayed up, sharing a bottle of something almost wine and gazing out beyond the edge of the settlement into the unknown. "I keep waiting for someone to come knock on our door," he admitted, voice quiet. "They will," she said. "You think so? Eventually, someone will want to know how we did it, how we survived scandal, judgment, exile. And what will we tell them?" She leaned into him. "That love is louder than law." He considered that, then nodded. They never married, not officially. There were no governments left that recognized both of them. But to the people of the edge, they were a union as true as the stars. When one of them spoke, the other listened. When one was injured because life was still dangerous on the rim, the other sat at the bedside silent and fierce. They didn't write memoirs or sign treaties. They planted gardens, built classrooms, delivered children, settled disputes, made music, read old earth poetry by starlight, and whispered the ancient lullabies of Everin as dusk fell over the horizon. They kissed like the world was watching. They danced like no one ever would. And one evening, many years later, when time had traced faint lines across Ryden's face and the silver in Teresa's hair had turned to starlight white, he took her hand on the balcony of their home. "Do you remember?" he asked. "The first thing I ever said to you after the meeting?" She nodded. "You said I was staring at you too long." "No," he said, laughing. "That was before the meeting." Her brow arched. "Then what did you say?" He touched her cheek. "I said, you're going to change everything." She smiled. "And you were wrong." His head tilted. "I didn't change everything," she murmured. We did." He kissed her then, slowly, reverently, like she was the last truth in the universe. And beneath the fading light of twin moons, two outlaws who had once been officers, enemies, legends, and lovers, vanished into the kind of peace they had fought to deserve. Together, always.